What's up, guys, and welcome to an all-new episode of Convos on the Pedicab. Before we get started, we have to introduce our sponsor, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in Austin, Texas, 10PATX. Get woke and improve your jiu-jitsu at the same time. We're located on between I-35 and 71 on Friedrich Lane. We're right across from the Onnit Gym. It's in the same complex. So come to 10th Planet. You'll get a monster workout. You'll get in really good shape. You'll learn a lot of essential self-defense skills, which you can't understate the importance of self-defense right now, especially with all the civil unrest that we're dealing with on both sides of the coin. So if you're looking for an outlet, if you're looking to de-stress, if you're looking to meet a lot of interesting people, if you're looking to learn an invaluable martial art, come to 10PATX, guys. Anyway, we got an all-new guest. We got the founder of the Your Minute Is Up pack, a pack to recall Mayor Adler. We have Becky Mcmillian.
Yes.
So, Becky, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you start to get involved in politics.
Right. So I was born in the Houston area. My parents went to Rice University, so they're very smart people. They came here to Austin in 1986 and been here since I was 4 years old. And raised here, went to Anderson High School, graduated in 2001, and then I went to New York and went to the Culinary Institute of America. So I'm actually a chef. And then I graduated in 2005, and I lived in New York City area up until 2010. And then I came back here in Austin and been in Austin since 2010 since. So I've been a chef pretty much all my whole entire life. I opened a catering business back in 2018. And, why I started to get involved in politics, I've always been quiet, and kept my beliefs to myself. And but then things, once COVID hit, I couldn't stand by anymore and just let things happen around here in Austin that I saw with, defunding of the police, businesses not being able to open, my business drastically affected by all of this. And then it still is.
Did you get any loans at all from the government?
I did. I did get the PPP, went through that pretty quick. And then I did get the small business grant here in Austin.
Do you have to pay that back or not?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. With what's happening here in Austin, with Adler still and Sam Briscoe approving, that businesses still aren't allowed to operate, efficiently.
Bars aren't. Yeah,
exactly.
Bars.
And that's my industry. So, there's still a capacity limit. People are still afraid to get out and book an event, have holiday parties. No one has booked a holiday party. I did have one in December to perform, and they just actually emailed me today on my way over saying that they would like to postpone and use their money towards next year.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
this is having a big economic impact on a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Where do you lean on the political spectrum? That's the other thing, too. Because I know that with this whole recall stuff, especially last year's recall petition, it was like this ultra super Trumpy echo chamber, and that turned a lot of people off, and understandably.
Right.
So, and one of the things I've noticed about this petition is that it's not really like that, and the reasons for getting involved this time around are a lot different than the reasons last time. Because last time people were just anti-homeless for the most part, and that's really what it came across as. But now there are a whole multitude of issues that Adler's doing with shutting down businesses, with the misallocation of city resources, with the fact that when you're defunding certain programs like APD, none of that money is going back into the industries that you're not allowing to operate. A lot of stuff like that is getting a different type of person to want to actually become active and get on board with this recall petition. So that's why I'm asking, Becky, where do you stand politically?
I'm pretty much right down the middle. I'm fiscally conservative. Another reason why I'm a successful business owner is because I operate that way. And then I save every penny I can, spend responsibly, don't go out and get a loan. I started my business through just hard-earned cash and savings. And then when it comes to social issues, I'm very liberal. Let people be happy the way that they want to be happy. Gay marriage, being proud of who you are.
Body positivity.
Exactly. Nice and fluffy myself. But being proud of who you are. So just being comfortable and speaking out for what you believe in. And that's kind of where I lean, just in that moderate spectrum.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are a lot more moderate in this group, and that's what it seems like from having talked to people who are involved with this. Because you're not the only person I've talked to when it comes to this. Right. And I'm going to be really honest. Like a year ago, people were asking me to get involved with this recall stuff, and I had no interest in doing that whatsoever, because I was making a really good, comfortable living, and I was really happy pedicabbing. And the homeless stuff, while I saw some problems with how they did the camping stuff, I didn't think it was warranted. I don't think it warranted getting rid of Mayor Adler. Right, exactly. Like the homeless issue,
it hurts me to see people on the streets living like they are. Just like when I was on my way here driving, there was a gentleman out in the middle of the street talking to himself, and you clearly see that he has a mental illness. Those types of people we need to get off the streets and help and make sure that they're thriving and in a comfortable place.
Yes. And you also don't want to have about 5 cops surrounding one person like that, and that's how you use our police resources, which we saw a lot of a few years ago, and that's not right. Nobody wants to see that, and I think that's got to be clear that this isn't it's not like you want to restore everything back to how it was in 2016 with how certain people were treated, because that's not fair. Nobody wants to go back to that.
Right, absolutely.
I think that message has to be said. But the reason that I changed my tune about this recall stuff is the fact that is basically when Adler stopped me from being able to make a living.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what it was. Like, you're actively trying to prevent myself and people like me from making a living, and then when you combine that with trying to expedite a new Code Next, which is going to make Austin more expensive, you're trying to you're trying to promote a 25%.
Everyone out of the city.
Yeah, you're trying to promote a 25% tax increase while we're in a recession, and while my ability to earn a decent living is being compromised. You can't stand, there's no way to stand for that. And then especially with how this presidential stuff is, the more involved you are locally, no one knows who the president's going to be, but I do know one thing for sure, and it's that the more involved you are locally and the more you let your public officials know that you disapprove of any of these shutdowns, the less likely they are to happen. And getting a whole influx of people to sign this Recall Adler petition as a result of the shutdowns, regardless of if he gets recalled, it sends a clear message to the city that we will not stand for the shutdowns and closures of small businesses. And that's my reason for doing this. It's not because I'm angry at Adler or I dislike him, but the decision to shut things down,
his policies,
decision to shut things down is just a deal breaker and such a red flag that I feel like I have no choice but to do this.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my take on that.
Yeah. So when I was staying at home for the first 2 months of COVID, I was very sad and literally crying every day, depressed about my business crumbling right before my eyes. And when the George Floyd incident happened, everyone got out and protested during a pandemic, nonetheless. And I saw my local leader who was telling me to stay home, have my business shut down, and do not go outside because of the pandemic. And then I see him outside in the middle of a large crowd, and he still preaches to this day. Don't go out of a large crowd.
Are you talking about Adler or talking about Kassar?
Adler.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, what is he doing? This is not appropriate for the leader of our city to tell us to stay home, close down your businesses, but it's okay for him to go out in front of a large crowd. Yes, I do know that the protest of George Floyd was extremely important, but for someone like himself to go out in front of a large crowd, in front of a lot of people, I don't think that was appropriate.
I don't think it was smart. And look, at the end of the day, I understand the need to protest this stuff.
Absolutely.
Racism is abhorrent, and
absolutely.
the way and our police officers need to be more accountable, and this is going to lead to more police accountability. And the push for accountability, meaningful accountability, is probably honestly going to come from conservatives more than liberals.
Right.
Because there's more likely to actually get a healthy middle ground, and the police are probably more willing to listen to you.
Right.
When you communicate in a certain way versus communicating in a different way. But, that being said, when these widespread protests start happening in the middle of a pandemic, you have to change your narrative. You know what I mean? You have because you can never this should never be this pandemic should never be used as an excuse to stop people from protesting.
Right.
Because that was one of my biggest concerns when you have these capacity limits. All of a sudden, you're preventing people from expressing their rights.
Right.
And
And
I felt
also
like it was
expressing
the
their rights of running their business.
Yeah, well, running the business, but in general,
So-
expressing their right to assembly, which is
Right.
the most un-American thing you could do. And it's the most unprogressive thing that you could do if you're a left-leaning, ultra left,
Right. Absolutely.
leftist progressive type of person. It seems like it's antithetical to that, right? So you
Right.
can never, under any set of circumstances, tell people that they cannot protest or blame people for protesting something that they disagree with. You should be allowed to protest no matter what the circumstances are.
Right.
But as a public official, if you're going to tell people to stay home and then you're going to go and join a protest, you now have to shift your narrative. Instead of telling people to go stay home and not work, maybe you tell people, maybe you start offering guidelines for how they can open their business while being responsibly.
Absolutely.
And Adler
Yeah.
didn't do that, and that's something that was really
Right.
troubling to me as well.
Right, absolutely. I totally 100% agree. Yep. And so that was kind of the final straw that broke the camel's back for me. Here I am grieving at home because I've lost so much. And still to this day, I'm losing, and they're still telling me to stay home.
But you don't have to now. You're good.
Right, but people are afraid to book events
Because of the messaging that Adler's saying.
Because of the messaging, so it's really hindered the event industry, and the music industry, and the people just being out and about. So that's that. And then, them taking away the safety aspect of
Reallocating funding.
the funding. That just sent me a message of, hey, and it's a bunch of knee-jerk moves that they're doing.
It's not.
It wasn't like, hey, hey guys, this is what's happening in Austin. We really need to focus on, maybe moving some money around, putting it towards this, thinking about, reimagining safety in another aspect. They literally, it's almost like they read a playbook, and all these mayors across the city or the United States did this, and it was just, it opened my eyes, and it just, it's like, what are y'all doing? You're not thinking of your constituents in your cities, and you're just operating in a knee-jerk move type of environment instead of really thinking about, hey, this is the best what's for this city.
Yeah, and I also want to add to that too. And when you first started seeing these giant waves of protests in Minnesota, and then next door in Houston, the city should have immediately called a meeting before that first protest happened in Austin by the APD headquarters. They should have called a city council meeting immediately while this was happening to make preemptive changes, because people are already pissed about what happened with Mike Ramos too.
Right,
and they did nothing. You waited until hundreds of thousands of people were gathered in the street to go out and protest. And then if you really, if you notice right afterwards, all of a sudden then we got a huge surge in cases.
Right.
And then they tried to blame all the bars in doing it. And I'm sure the bars played a role because we're getting an uptick right now.
Right.
But we're not getting an uptick the way we got the uptick when they had the protests.
Right, where we're having to close back down in a sense.
Yeah. So that's
right now we're still able to move forward, and
or we're at least staying the same. We're at least being able to stay on a plateau.
Right.
But that's my criticism with how they're going about this policing stuff. And then also, you really want to, if you really care about the police reform, anybody in their right mind who's somewhat politically aware, has a modicum of political awareness, is going to know that this is going to all get overturned by the state next season. Especially with who got elected. It was mostly a red wave, right, that got elected to the state legislature.
Yeah.
They're going to overturn all of this, and we're going to get no police reform. And if anything, you're going to get a tougher, more militarized, and more strict police force, which is going to do the opposite of what you're actually trying to do.
They're going to take, policies and how they do things in cities away from the people that went and did these knee-jerk moves. So they're going to, Abbott supposedly is going to take some of their, what's the right word to use, abilities.
Their authorities. He's going to take their authorities away, and they're going to, and it's going to be a state agency. And there's also the possibility too that they could make Austin what is it called? What's that thing when you're not a city, you're like an independent, you're like a subsidiary of the state or something. I forgot what it's.
Right. I know that they're also trying to. When we were trying to do our recall petition, during the early voting and the election day, there was also another crowd out there trying to do, I guess, progressive city movements.
Yeah.
To collect signatures.
To give the mayor more power and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
To give them the mayor more power, which is kind of the opposite of what we're
trying to do. Yes, especially
right.
with who the mayor is right now.
Right.
I talked to one of those guys, and one of those guys was pretty cool. And he was telling me what the thing was about, and I'm like, hey, look, dude, I like ranked choice voting. Like, one of the things was to do ranked choice voting.
Right.
And I'm like, ranked choice voting is awesome. That would actually be great.
Right.
But to give the mayor more power,
right,
and to also have the mayor's election on the same time as a presidential election, that's not really going to help the city. It's probably going to hurt the city because you're going to conflate. You could conflate a mayor who's like a very pro real estate and pro developer friendly mayor with progressivism, and it's a lot easier to conflate that as a result, like when it's during a presidential election. And that happened when Beto was running. Like, a lot of these like neoliberal city council candidates attached themselves to Beto, and then look what we got in 2018. So
right, absolutely, yeah. So when I went and approached them and asked them what they were doing, what was their petition for, they explained to me, it's to make it a strong mayor, where the mayor the city council would almost act like a senate, where they would get rid of the city manager, take away all those responsibilities, the financial responsibilities, and give it to the mayor. Then the city council would act as almost as the senate. They would then vote on things, and then they would then go and give it to the mayor. The mayor would then have the opportunity to either pass it through or veto it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So I don't either.
Although the one positive is that our city manager makes like $400K a year, and at least that's money that we don't have to spend anymore.
Right.
That does save some money.
We can buy another toilet, I guess, right? Another
who
solar
knows,
toilet.
Right? Yeah, another porta potty on 7th Street. We could buy a few, like, who the hell knows? And that's the thing too, is that a lot of people in these like Take Back Austin groups, and here's a problem I have too with a lot of these like conservative rhetoric, and it's that they'll conflate, like they'll like overly like demonize a progressive movement, and like just I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, but they'll basically
and also just
they'll basically like co-opt these like some of these progressive movements, which actually have like some good ideas, and they'll just like conflate everything with being socialism and communism, and that's really unhealthy too. And even this Progress Texas group, like, not all of their ideas are bad, and that's what we got to understand. Like, some of those ideas, like ranked choice voting, is a good thing. We should adopt ranked choice voting. It would probably make things a lot easier.
Right.
I mean, right?
I don't know. I don't know enough.
Do you know what ranked choice voting is?
I don't.
So ranked choice voting, basically, when you have an election, instead of just picking your candidate, you can pick your second and your third choice, and then all this stuff gets aggregated in a final total, which can avoid runoffs and make it so that people are more involved, and they can give a clearer picture. So if there's 4 candidates, you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4 next to a candidate, and then when it comes time to submit the tabulations, they would then, I got 1,000 votes for number 1. Yeah. So if you got like a ton of number 2 votes, right? Like you still have a shot at actually winning if like the number 1 guy had more number 1 votes, but also had more number 4 votes, but the number 2 guy was consistent as the second, like that guy could win, and it becomes more fair and equitable. I'm fine with that. I think that's how we should vote. I mean, do you?
I've never experienced it before, but yeah, I would like to definitely.
I would have no problem trying that system out. That seems like a pretty good idea for a system. But yeah, the strong mayor stuff, especially with how our mayor's been kind of like overly strong already in this pandemic.
He's like almost a little power hungry.
Yeah, that I'm really uncomfortable doing that. But at the same time, you can't discount every idea that they're doing, and maybe they can go back to the drawing board, just like the recall stuff. They're going back to the drawing board, and it's trying to become a more inclusive, less right-wing movement.
Right.
So maybe Progress Texas, they can like hit the reset button on some of what they're doing and use the ranked choice voting and use a couple of things. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. Also, just to let you know, we're not part of Take Back Austin at all. I started this recall. So our town, Austin, was the original people who started the recall movement back of last year, and I think it was September, October of 2019.
Yeah.
A group of ladies did. And when COVID hit back in March of this year, the movement stopped because, they were so restricted they couldn't go out and do anything. It definitely fizzled out. It was definitely a group of older ladies, very concerned about their health with the virus and so forth. And then when all this stuff started happening, in June and July, I was watching the news and I was like, wait, you can recall a mayor? I was like, how do I do this? So I started looking at the city charter. I was like, amazing. And then I started going into Facebook groups and so forth and noticed that there was already a Recall Adler group formed on Facebook. And I got involved in that. And I was like, okay, there is already a movement going. What's going on? And then I came across the ladies who had started Our Town Austin. And they kind of mentored me, like, Becky, we're actually going to shut Our Town Austin down. You're more than welcome to pick it back up. So they mentored me on how to start a PAC. And then on September 8th, I went and filed. Your minute is up, and here we are today.
Having this great conversation on the Pedicab about
right.
it. And we're trying to clear up a lot of misconceptions because, there are a lot of misconceptions about these groups and the corporate media that's like running rampant in Austin is really playing a hand in it. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to have you on to clear a lot of there's a lot of misinfo up, and I want to clear up a lot of this misinformation. And one of the things I really want to clear up is the fact that this is not a right-wing echo chamber.
Right.
And I know there was a big thing in the news on Sunday when they had the recall parade, and they were telling people to put their Trump stickers on their car.
Right. Totally not true. Totally not true at all. We were there.
Hey, make sure you have your Trump sticker on.
Right. Totally not true. It was the exact opposite. This is a nonpartisan movement.
Yeah, we got our Klan robes. We got our ghosts out.
Right. It was totally ridiculous.
We had a whole Halloween party, all of us dressed up as ghosts.
Right. It was. I mean, some of the stuff I read in the media, like what we do and say, it was just awful. No, it was definitely put all your Recall Adler stuff on your vehicles. The van was decorated in the Recall Adler magnets, a clown mask on there. I mean, it was definitely for the recall. It was nowhere near for Trump or Biden. It was not like that.
Yeah.
This is for the movement of Recall Adler and the city council members.
Nonpartisan. It's nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan.
It's nonpartisan.
Yes.
And I think too, like, I think here's my take on this stuff, right? And I think that one of the dangers, and I've talked to you about this too. I like when all that stuff came, I was like, hey, Becky, I called you on the phone. I'm like, Becky, you cannot associate this movement. You need to fix this shit right now.
Right.
I literally said that to you. Like, you need to
Absolutely.
fix this now and issue a statement. This cannot be associated with Trumpism. There needs to be an active, a serious, active, concerted effort to not associate any of this stuff with Trumpism or anything hateful. Anything that can even be construed as hateful whatsoever. And look, I mean, let's be honest. The majority of the people who are in this group probably voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
They probably did. But
But
they also probably voted for Trump for different reasons than somebody would have voted for Trump in 2016.
Yeah.
When a bunch of liberal mayors and governors, and our specifically liberal mayor, is shutting down our economy and giving us all these mixed messages without the virus and seeming to show little to no concern for small business owners or people who work at small businesses or make a living as a result of small business culture. I mean, what do you expect the byproduct is going to be? It doesn't mean that you support
absolutely.
like just because somebody voted for Donald Trump in this election doesn't mean that they subscribe to the ideology of Trumpism, and that needs to be very clearly reiterated and really hammered home. And that's what I'm.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started collecting signatures on October 13th was our first day, and we have until April 11th to collect the signatures for the recall. There have been several Democrats, Republicans, that voted for Steve Adler to get into office, when he campaigned in 2018, that came up to the table and said he did not campaign for what he's doing right now. He has got to go. They're like, I voted for him, and this is not what I want. He did not campaign for this. He did not campaign for him, lifting the camping ban. He did not campaign for defunding, allocating funds from the police department. He did not do that. I voted him in on what he campaigned for.
Yeah.
And so it's a common sense issue.
And the fact that all of this is happening at once is also really amplifying a lot of
right,
stuff.
absolutely.
Like if he just did the homeless thing, right, nobody cared. And
right.
If the
and
policing,
at that point,
yeah,
I didn't care either.
didn't give a shit.
you
Did
know?
not care. And then if the
Yeah.
policing thing were to have happened, like this past year without COVID or the shutdowns,
Right.
I wouldn't care.
Right.
I wouldn't.
Like,
give a
okay,
shit.
let's let it give it.
Let's give it a shot and see what happens. Yeah, but it's like the homelessness, the defunding, and the fact that you're telling people that they can't work, and you're trying to raise
Right.
taxes during a pandemic and create a land code based on urban
Right.
density. While that's how you literally spread viruses, it's just like a perfect storm of horrible policies are all
Yes.
coming together in one moment, and it's just literally a recipe for why this is so easy to get signatures. Like I've already
Right.
gotten 8 signatures, and I put no effort into this at all.
Right,
I'm
right.
literally like walking to my friends.
Well,
Hey, you want to sign it? Yes.
Right.
Give it to me. Let me sign it.
Yeah. I mean, we're only on day 23, 24, and we're already 1/6 of the way done collecting signatures that we need. So it's been pretty easy.
And it shouldn't be this easy if you were good at your job. If you had a modicum
Yeah.
of, if you were like, if you had a remote sense of competence in your ability to actually
Right.
do your job and
Right.
show that you actually cared about the people who lived here, this should not be easy. And we're
Right.
not even like being aggressively
Yep.
telling people to sign this. We're just talking about our experience very matter-of-factly
Right.
and very nonchalantly.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
this is gonna probably
right.
get even more people to want to sign this.
Right. And also a lot of people's concerns are, well, how do you know the city clerk's not going to kick this out? Because look what they did to the camping ban. Look what they did to this. And, they're in cahoots with Adler, like everything. You've seen all the emails go around. And so my thing is we're verifying these voters before they even sign the petition. It's like an ironclad process that we're doing. So we're verifying them to make sure they can sign the petition. And then we're also verifying them on the back end of things.
Yeah. And then you also got to get another like 30% extra than that just to,
Right.
just to really go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like just
Absolutely.
to really let them know.
Yeah.
Here's another thing too. What's up with this Back the Blue thing?
Right.
So I want to talk about this whole Back
Yeah.
the Blue rally also, and were you involved? Like, how did that tie into the Recall Adler thing?
Right. So the Recall Adler Facebook group versus Your Minute is Up are completely.
That's what I mean. Like,
they're completely
sorry.
separate.
I meant
groups.
that
Yeah.
Your Minute is Up,
Yep.
and the back, like the Recall Adler parade versus the Back the Blue thing. That's what
Right.
I meant. Like,
So
are they were
Mm-hmm.
they separate? Were they different? Were they the same event? Were they tied into each other? Like, tell us what's going on.
So I'm the founder of Your Minute is Up, which is the actual PAC to recall Mayor Adler and the city council members. There's also a Facebook group called Recall Adler, which was formed 2 years ago, and which built up a lot of steam. So they're the ones who hosted the parade. Of course, my voice was also there to help support them. And then Luis Rodriguez, who was part of was the Wind Freedom Writers.
That guy, yeah, okay.
Yes.
I don't know anything about. I've never met those guys ever.
Yeah, so he invited the group to join them at APD headquarters once we finished the Recall Adler parade.
Okay.
So we joined them. We heard them talk. Mackenzie Kelly was there. Lewis Herron. Michael Lovins was there as well. Dennis Ferris. They all gave great speeches on ADP, on ADP headquarters.
APD.
Yes, APD.
Not ADP.
not the checking, right? Okay, blonde moment. Okay, so we met at headquarters. We marched down to the W, and then a bunch of people also met them there. At that point, we were all staying around. I even gave a speech at the W to talk about the recall efforts. We then all went across the street. We were obviously there because we love our police department. We love
Sure.
So we were there as a joined effort to support them. We then got asked to walk over to the city hall side and take a picture with them.
Who asked you to do that?
Luis and his team.
So Lewis Herron.
No, Luis Rodriguez, who's the Wind Freedom.
And he organized the win. And yeah, because I thought that you guys were not even associated with that. Those are two separate things. They're trying to conflate you guys with all of that.
Right. So everyone's completely separate.
It's all separate. But this guy invited you guys, and you guys came because you were like,
since you're already doing a parade, you're more than welcome to join us.
and everybody came because he thought it was a cool, positive thing.
Exactly. Absolutely. So we all went to go take a picture at the end, and here we go. 2 hours later, here comes Shannon from Fox saying we're all racist.
Well, yeah, but who was in the picture?
supposedly, what was it? It was the 3 people on the end
Yeah,
with the
these
black
three.
and yellow.
Yeah. Those. Yeah. So did you not like notice that those guys were in there?
I did not notice that they were in there until the photo was posted on the internet.
Because that's not a good
social
look.
media.
That's not a good look.
No,
like this should
no.
not be. That's a really bad look when those people are associated
Right.
with these types of movements. Like,
Right.
it is that undermines everything that's happening.
Right.
Like because people are doing this movement because they care about the small business community,
Right.
not because you want to support fascism or white supremacy or have any association with these
Right,
people. Like
absolutely.
I know who Chris Ritchie is. Like I don't like anything about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like anything about the Proud Boys. I don't think they're a white supremacist group or a hate group, but they're these are people that I don't want to interact with or be around or
Right.
Do any kind of political activity where my name is attached to them
Right, absolutely.
under any set of circumstances.
Right. That's not who I am either. So.
Yeah. And
Or
so
what
like,
the recall effort is
did
about
nobody
at
even
all.
notice that those like did nobody even say like, hey, what are y'all doing? Why are you guys like not going into the picture? Like what was
I had no idea that they were going across the street with us to take a picture. I did notice them when we were staying around. I'm like, who are they? Like, what is this? And then when we went across the street, because once again, just like with any protest or any gathering, you go there on good terms because that's what that was about. And then if someone decides to show up, you can't control who shows up.
You cannot control who shows up to any kind of
So-
rally. No, you can't.
And so it's like they show up, they're there. I didn't even notice that they even joined the picture. If I did notice, I'd be like, yo, get out. You're not a part of this organization that we came here today for.
Yeah, and
So-
I think that in the future there's got to be a clear message that people like that are not welcome at any of these events.
Right, absolutely.
And
Because
if
we
you know,
don't
like,
support any of that.
there has to be a better clear. This has to be like a learning experience to like let everybody know like people like that have no business
Right.
being associated or
Right.
like being involved or being like you have to denounce that shit immediately, and you got to be
Right.
like super loud and super vocal about that. And I honestly
Right.
think that if you're gonna ever have an event like any kind of these public events, you got to make it so that people cannot be allowed to wear like you cannot have any jacket or anything that you cannot wear any insignia that associates you with the group.
Right,
Because this is
absolutely.
not about that. It's about doing a specific thing, and it doesn't matter what group you're a part of.
Right.
It's about trying to make Austin better for everybody, and you should
Right.
not wear any kind of insignia
Right, absolutely.
that associates you with a political group.
Right, I totally
Even if
agree.
it says Democrat or Republican, you should no insignia at all. Like that should be a
Yeah, just like when we joined up at the W, I noticed that there was tons of Trump flags. I'm like, I don't really want the recall to be known as that because that's not who we are.
But you got to
So
communicate that better.
Right,
In the
absolutely.
future, you have to go and
Yeah.
you got to communicate that better. You
Yeah,
got to
so
communicate
when
that
there
better.
was
and be
there
like,
was some girls, oh Jesus this, Jesus, I'm like, oh
no, shut the
no,
fuck up.
be quiet.
You have to stop. And,
like stop. I'm like,
stop.
at that point I was like, you know what, I almost want to go because this is not who we are.
It's undermining everything. And then
yeah.
when I went to those reopen protests,
Right.
and like the first reopened, like the first couple reopened protests while things were shut down.
Right.
And you had this fucking jackass with the shofar, talking about God and Jesus, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you're ruining this. Like this is you're undermining the struggle of every small business owner in the United States, specifically in Austin and in Texas. And you don't
Right.
even have I don't even think this guy even has a job, and he's going to these things playing a shofar. Like
Right.
it's an insult and an affront to people who actually are being affected by these shutdowns.
Right.
Like, you think the guy with the shofar is affected by that?
Right. No.
He's capitalizing it. That's not right.
Right. So when you go to a protest or a rally and it's specifically designated for something, that's what the focus needs to be. It doesn't need to be about, let's say, a candidate was to show up. We're not there to endorse them. We're not there for them. They're there to support us and the cause that the rally was for. Just like when Mackenzie Kelly and Lewis Herron were there, they talked about supporting the police. They didn't go there at all to say, hey, vote for me on November 3rd.
No.
They weren't there for that. They were there to specifically to show their support for the police officers.
So I think a lot of these, I get the whole back the blue stuff, right? And I think
Right.
that like from a business stand, you as a business owner, especially considering how a lot of people's events are not, people are like canceling their events, and it's probably you're not as busy as you should be, right, because of this virus. The city defunding the police might almost be a blessing in disguise for you from a business standpoint.
How so?
Because now you get to host all these Back the Blue rallies. Now you get to have all these back. You get to have all these like super conservative
charcuterie board, some wine while you're here.
Now you get to just literally change your narrative and start hosting these like super conservative, super GOP events, and that's like what could start happening is like a lot of these event spaces, because people aren't wanting to book. People don't want to book as much catering. You just use this to do fundraisers for conservative candidates and super conservative causes. Like, I mean, that's what I would do.
Or
if I were
maybe Greg Casar wants to hold a progressive movement catering event. Hey, call me Greg.
Whatever. We're not discriminatory, but I feel like just as a business owner, the only reason I would be at these Blue Lives Matter parades, right? And I love our law enforcement. I have no problem. I think that there's some things that they need to fix. Right, and we got to be very adamant about what they fix, but it doesn't mean I hate the cops. I just think that there's certain things they got to be better at their job with, right? But
I like to use this as an example. You have teachers out there, right, who maybe have sex with high schoolers, right?
Yeah, not all teachers do that.
But not all teachers do that, so you can't label people as a whole group, as a whole bunch of...
generally speaking, when a teacher fucks their high school student, they go to jail right away.
Right, this is true.
To kill somebody.
But they go through the court system, just like with a teacher, they go through a court system.
Yeah, but what's the conviction ratio of a cop who shoots somebody versus the conviction ratio of a teacher who fucks their student?
I haven't looked at those statistics.
I guarantee you the conviction ratio of a teacher who fucks their student is a lot higher than that of a cop who who fucking shoots somebody.
But we can't label a whole tree, when there's a couple of bad apples on,
No, so, I understand, but we got to be careful about like this should not morph into a culture of bootlicking law enforcement.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You can still support our police while saying, hey, you got to be accountable. It's like this, right? Like, I'm assuming you're single right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm sure. Okay, all right. I'm not, right, and me and my girlfriend have been together for close to 4 years, right, and we live together, and we're probably gonna have a family and get married at some point, and do all that, right? And I love my girlfriend to pieces. I love her to the end of the earth. But if she were to cheat on me, we're fucking done. Like, I'm never talking to you again. I want no association with you. Like, there's no taking you back. There's no forgiving that.
Right. Because trust gets broken.
Right. So at the same time, love and accountability are tied to one another.
Right.
So if our police department is not accountable for upholding the Constitution and actually protecting and serving us, you got to make them accountable. Do you know what I mean? And if they're gonna brutalize people without probable cause, if they're going to use excessive or deadly force in a situation where they shouldn't be doing that, if they're not fit to care for somebody who's injured or whatnot when they're the first people on the scene, and they're not really at a point where they're really doing very much to help to make a productive influence on society, you have to hold that accountable. And you can still love our law enforcement and you can still respect what they do and admire them for having the courage to do what they're doing, but you got to hold them accountable, and that should never be
just like we all have to hold ourselves accountable for what we do. So it all goes back to respect others. It's like an elementary rule of thumb. You respect each other. You take care of each other out in this world, and so you can't go around and say fuck the police.
No, you can't do that. That's bad. But you also can't.
Yeah.
Like having these, I don't think the cops really enjoy going to these Blue Lives Matter rallies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
don't know. I haven't asked.
I'm just saying, if you were a cop, would you want to be at these Blue Lives Matter parades, all these?
Okay, so the cops were called. So we were at the W. This is all from the grapevine, but all of Adler's security staff at the W were down there, all dressed in black, watching us, make sure we didn't do anything. And then what's funny is, supposedly, this is from the grapevine, he had called 20 police officers to be on standby in case we got out of hand, right?
Yeah.
So I find it funny, he wants to take away protection from citizens, and yet though he calls in
20 police for himself.
For himself, yes.
Did the police officers actually show up?
Yes, they did.
Why?
So that's the reason why they were there at the Back the Blue.
But the Back the Blue area was by the police headquarters, not
Well, yes, but then we walked over to the W to show our support.
I thought. Wait. So the back and then when you guys when you took the picture, was it at the with the?
It was at City Hall.
So Chris Ritchie was at City Hall.
Yes.
Was Chris Ritchie all right? Was Chris Ritchie at the back of the blue thing the entire time? Like when did you start noticing Chris Ritchie show up?
I noticed him at the City Hall.
So
at the
he wasn't
W.
even at the back of the blue thing.
He very well could have been. I don't know. I personally myself did not see him. It was when I saw him was when I got done with my speech at the W.
Okay.
So he very well could have been.
I was hearing stories that him and his buddies just showed up just to take the picture.
I mean, when I first noticed him was at the City Hall when we took the picture.
Yeah, and I was hearing that from multiple sources too, that he was just coming in there and he just showed up literally to take a picture and leave. And I also heard something about saying, hey, we're all going to troll everybody and this and that. And I'm just like...
Yeah, so he was actually on Facebook Live. It went out on a tweet. Robert on Twitter, he found the live feed on Chris Ritchie's page. And you could hear the audio when he was live saying, oh, the left is really going to like this. And then, yeah, cops are racist.
There's something odd about that guy being, there's something really
odd.
It's like
it's almost like he purposely went there to cause havoc.
Yeah. Do you know anything about Chris Ritchie?
I don't. I from what I hear, he was previously homeless. And he works here in Austin. So
he works at a car wash or something like that.
Yeah.
And I know I had this friend a while ago. I don't know. I mean, we're like Facebook friend, right? Mm-hmm. And she was always trying to get this guy fired because it's like he's a fucking, it's Chris Ritchie, right? And yeah, man, if I knew who this guy was, I wouldn't want him to work for me or represent my company. Mm-hmm. But I also don't like the idea of trying to fire somebody because they are because they have these belief structures. Like that should just be up to tell the boss, let it be known. If the boss wants to keep that guy around, that's their choice. Yeah. That's whatever. And maybe I won't use that car wash, but yeah, I don't like that aspect of it. But the thing about people like Christopher Ritchie is it doesn't make sense why somebody like that would even be a Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
I mean, he doesn't own anything, right?
Or is he a Trump supporter?
I mean, he's like a Proud Boy in one of in these groups. I'm assuming he's at all these pro-Trump events. I would assume that he is.
I have no idea.
Right, but it doesn't make sense. Yep. It doesn't make sense if you look at the optics of this, right? You have somebody who looks like he's a meth head, right? He looks like a meth head. He used to be homeless. Someone told me he lives in a motel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't look like somebody that has a stock portfolio. He doesn't look like somebody who owns his own home. He doesn't look like somebody who owns any kind of business that's going to benefit from Trump's tax breaks. What reason do you have to want Donald Trump to be president? But this guy's so adamantly Trumpy. It doesn't things about that guy and those people don't add up, and you could almost say that they're being used. What if they're being used by these establishment politicians to undermine what you're doing?
Right, absolutely, like an implant.
Yeah. It seems very odd, the circumstances of this guy.
Yeah, from what we heard on the audio from his live feed versus what happened, it's almost like he was there to specifically cause havoc, and he knew what he was doing on purpose when we took that picture. Yeah,
it's bad. People like that, you got to do a better job of weeding these people out. And really disassociating yourself from those people. You got to do it better. You if you want this to work, and we need for this to work, because our city needs to be held accountable for this. Our music venues.
And I remember sending you a text wow, politics is pretty messy. He's like, no shit, Becky.
Yeah, I said that right. Yeah, I was like, no shit, of course.
Oh my God. So,
you have to be 3 steps ahead of all of that stuff. And I was telling Mackenzie, I'm with that picture being showed up, you know what you need to do? You got to go to every black business that you could find in your district and hype the shit out of it. That's what you need to do immediately. You have to make a overly concerted effort to start reaching out to people who don't look like you, because the only way that this will ever blow over, people will dismiss that, is if you are using action to.
Right. Well, I think that I've never seen any of the candidates ever act inappropriately ever.
Yeah, I don't think they are.
So for people to mistake them as what Fox 7 portrayed them as is incredibly wrong. Yeah. I've never seen them act any form like that when I've been around them. They've always been extremely respectful, very polite. Great
and Fox is supposed to also be conservative too, which is also a little it's
really
weird. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, and also the thing with our media. So okay, we did a Fox News segment with the recall back in early October before we started getting signatures. We were on there saying the reason for our movement is for the safety and concern of our citizens and businesses. As soon as we started saying the word safety, here they are going out and portraying the safety of Austin. As we're saying, we feel endangered. Here they are shooting out, taking a woman taking a jog with her kid in a stroller, a puppy playing in the grass. So Fox 7 purposely in that segment almost misconstrued our own message of what we were trying to say about the recall. And so with the media here in town, it's, and you see all over, in other cities as well, is they misconstrued the message of what we were trying to say. And I'm sure they do it, and I haven't watched it, with closely, but with what other messages are put out there.
Yeah. Do you remember the whole Prop J and Prop K fiasco 2 years ago?
I don't know.
Where they Prop J was an item where people had a chance to vote on their own land code, right? And vote when the city came up with a land code, the city you had the opportunity. You would have the opportunity to vote on whether the city should implement it, right? And the city did not like that,
right?
And the developers backing our candidates didn't like that,
right?
Understandably so, right?
Right. Right.
And so they posted an ad campaign, an anti-Prop J campaign. You know what the headline said?
What?
Don't Trump Austin.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So they literally launched this $1 million ad campaign to associate voting on your own land code with Trumpism.
Wow.
Yeah. And right now the city's also trying to associate preserving our music venues and preserving our bars and saving our small businesses and having basic freedoms to interact with other people as Trumpism.
Right.
And that's something that our media is going to go to great lengths to associate and equate you with being extremely Trumpy.
I'm all about common sense. That's what they should
sense.
equate me with.
Well, yeah, but I'm just telling you, from somebody who's because I did try to be mayor of Austin 2 years ago, and granted it was not a serious candidacy, right? But I saw a lot of what happened with the prop items, and I learned a lot from this process. And I'm telling you, just from my experience, right? They're gonna go and do whatever they can to associate you with Trumpism, and they are gonna make you and make anybody associated with your group look as Trumpy as possible.
Right.
So you need to, if you want this to actually work and you want to be taken seriously, there's got to be an extra concerted effort, going beyond the pale, to include people of all political aisles.
Right.
And next time there is something, right? There's an event. No political affiliate. You cannot show political affiliation for anything whatsoever. If you're wearing a MAGA hat, you are not allowed to come here.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're wearing a Proud Boys jacket, you're not allowed. You have to. That's the only way this can work, because they will just paint a picture of you guys as being super Trumpy, and it'll undermine everything that you're doing.
And once again, I will reinstate what I said earlier. People who were signing this petition voted for Adler when he ran his last campaign in 2018. Specifically said, I do not vote for this, what he's doing right now. I'm signing this petition. There has been several people. It's not a Republican or Democrat. It's a common sense issue.
Yeah.
What he's doing right now.
And everybody should be welcome, and everyone should be included. And if you're concerned about whatever,
if
you're concerned about whatever issue you're concerned about, reach out to you. You're an extremely accessible person.
Right.
How can people get a hold of you, Becky? That's the
well,
thing.
go to our website, stopadler.com. You can contact me through the email.
What's the email? Share everything with us, Becky.
It's yourminuteisup@gmail.com. I don't put my phone number out there, but you can reach me through email. It's the best way. So stopadler.com and yourminuteisup@gmail.
Okay, and what about your social media? Tell us about your social media, Becky.
So we're on Facebook. Your Minute is Up Facebook page. You can find us there. We're on Twitter. Your Minute is Up handle. We are on Instagram. Your Minute is Up. It's pretty straightforward. It's our PAC name. Your Minute is Up, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Becky, for coming on and talking to me about this. I hope we cleared a lot of this stuff up.
Yes. Thank you, Alex, for having me.
Because I think it's important. There needs to be clarity as to why people are doing what they're doing.
Right, absolutely.
And if I thought that if I thought that this was something that was extremely hateful, or a dog was for racism or authoritarianism, I would have called you out on that and really been. I would have had you on to call you out on that.
Right.
So I had you on because I think people need to know the truth about things. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right. This is an all-new episode of Convos on the Pedicab. Tune in.